Camera's on, mic's working. Cool. First things first, has everyone got an Eros beer? Yeah. Cool. There's more at the front if anyone didn't get one. So, cool. I was worried we'd run out, but Roy has nailed that. So, we are Eros skydiving team. We're here today to talk to you about progression in four-way skydiving from rookie through to AAA. We're going to be talking about an introduction to four-way, whether or not you are ready to compete, stepping up through the categories, single A, double A, the different competitions, a bit about training plans and how to train. We're going to talk about dealing with changes in team lineup, why AAA is so hard, and a bit about world level competitions. For those of you coming in right now, there's some beer at the front. If you want to walk all the way to the front and get a beer, you can have one. Pizzas and beers. They're all the same.
No, they're not.
Yeah, I'm just trying to hurry them up. Okay, so we are Eros skydiving team. I've joined the team this year. I'm Matt Cumming. The rest of them have been going since 2016 with various lineups. So I'm Matt, this is Travis, Helen, Roy, and Craig Hicks, our cameraman. We've all got at least 2,000 jumps and quite a lot of tunnel, and have been competing for many years in various different teams. So to start with, just complete basics, so I can calibrate this a little bit. By a show of hands, who has never competed in four-way before? Okay, fair few. Who has ever competed in rookie? And single A, double A, and triple A. Cool. So we've got a bit of a mix, so I will cover the basics and then we'll go into a bit more detail later on as well. So basic, we've got 4 skydivers in a formation with a cameraman who is part of the team. The cameraman jumps out with us and films the formations for 35 seconds. They film the whole jump, but the first 35 seconds are where you score your points. That then gets submitted to the judges, and the judges score you for how many formations you have built. The formations look a little bit like this. Each round has some predetermined formations that you have to cycle through as many times as you can in 35 seconds, and you score a point for each formation that you build. So for example, an H like this with everybody would look like this. Each category of competition, so we start at rookie, we've then got single A, double A, and triple A, gets a little bit more progressively difficult. So you can enter the category that is appropriate for your level of skill. There's no real hard and fast rule there. And the aim of our talk today is just so that whatever stage you're at with that four-way progression, by the end you should kind of have a good idea of how you can move up to the next level and progress up towards AAA. So first question, am I ready to compete? So some of you have never competed in four-way before. I would say if you have got FS1, then you are ready to compete. When I did my first competition, Lucy's favourite, we got a whole 1 point in the very last round of the competition. We had loads of fun doing it though. Which was actually, so while I was doing this, this was the year that Eros first formed in AAA. So yeah, we got 1 point in the whole competition. What the zeros don't show is that there was massive progression between each round. So we're getting closer and closer to getting that 1 point. And then by the last round, we finally got that 1 point. And then you can see that progression continued throughout the season. And by nationals, we were getting a 6-point average. It's loads of fun to do a team, even if you're not very good, even if you're not scoring a lot of points. And just by jumping with the same people regularly, you'll improve really quickly because you can fine-tune things and get used to jumping with each other. A little bit about slots. So there are 5 slots in a four-way team because there's a cameraman who films us. The 4 slots in the formation are called point, outside centre, inside centre, and tail. In the picture here, point is in red, outside centre in green, inside in blue, and tail is yellow. And if you've never done a team before, it can be a bit confusing working out who to put in which slot. So some tips on that. Generally, if you've got an inside centre who is a bit bigger and heavier, that can be useful. The inside centre generally is taking a lot of grips and having people taking grips on them, so that will lift that person up quite a lot. So if you put your heaviest person in inside centre, that would generally be a bit easier for them to deal with. Ideally, everyone would be the same weight, the same height, but realistically, that's not going to happen. For tail flyers, you get a big tall person like Roy. Tail often has to reach out to get leg grips. It's useful for them to be outside the plane on exits. Conversely, point flyer, you get someone maybe a bit smaller, easier to get through the door, and they tend further down the line to have to go over the top of the formation quite a lot. So if they're a bit lighter, that can be useful. And then your outside centre, which is Travis for us, you get someone that is really good at doing the big turns. Outside centre tends to have to move around quite a lot. So if you've got a person in the team that's perhaps more experienced than everyone else, at the beginner level, it's good to stick them in outside centre, which is not what we've done with Travis, of course. Getting a coach. So if you're starting a team, you've worked out what slots you think you're best to go in, it's a good idea to get a coach. Now the first thing with coaches is that they cost money. And quite a lot of teams will think they're going to spend that lot of money on jumps, so they'll just save money and not get a coach. But actually, if you're going to spend, say a team jump is at least £20 a jump ticket, so you're spending about £100 as a team for each jump. If you're going to do several jumps in a weekend, you're going to spend several £100s already. And the coach is probably, what, £150, £200 a day? So although it's quite a lot of money, as a team it's maybe not that much more than you were already going to be spending. And for that you'll get much quicker improvement. It's much more valuable to have a coach fix your exit by watching a video and tweaking something early than to just go up and get the exit wrong 5 times over and wonder why you're always upside down and on your backs tumbling through the sky. Having a coach will improve so much faster that it's definitely worth the investment. It's something we've struggled with the last year or two with COVID restrictions. A lot of the coaches come from abroad, so we've been trying to do it all online, and it's reminded us how important coaching is. They can also help run the training, so they can coordinate your day for you, come up with a bit of a training plan, and they can deal with things like helping the packers, helping manifest, so that you can just focus on your skydiving. And Eros talk wouldn't be complete without a mention on player coaches. So I don't know if many of you know Joey Jones, but Joey was in the team. I've taken his slot as he's now gone back to America. But Joey was a 4-time world champion with 17,000 jumps, 2-time world champion, 1-time world champion. Sorry, Joey.
This keeps getting worse.
Yeah, so Joey's a really good skydiver with 17,000 jumps or something. Putting someone like that in the team means that they can coach you, they can feel what's going on with all of the formations and really turbocharge that progression. The downside is it costs even more money because now your camera slot is split between 3 people instead of 4, and generally you'll be covering the coach's costs as well, including their jumps. There's not that many world champions just knocking around, free to do player coach teams, but if you're looking at rookie teams and single A teams, there are quite a few experienced AAA flyers who are also coaches that are often willing to do a single A team or rookie team either in training or in competition to help you progress a bit faster. So it's something to look out for. It can be really worth the extra money. So single A, in rookie we just have the random formations, which were the formations I put up earlier. And single A, you can start learning how to fly blocks.
That's the wind tunnel running.
Cool, I can talk to music. So learning how to fly blocks. So when you're learning how to fly blocks, what a block is instead of just building a formation, you're going to hold on to your team, and then usually the formation splits into 2 or maybe 3 pieces. And then you'll spin someone around, you maybe go over or under each other, and then you put it back together. And for that, you get 1 point for building it, and another point for the enter and closing it. This makes it a bit more technically challenging. You've also got more points per round once you're up to single A, but the really tricky bit is learning how to fly people around the sky. You're no longer just flying yourself, and that's what makes single A a bit more technical. But they don't put all of these blocks in straight away, they build it up. So single A just has a few of them that are probably the most straightforward ones, and then at double A and triple A they start to throw in the harder, more challenging blocks that Travis will talk about in a bit. And when I did Pumas, to get to single A, we maybe did a couple hours in the tunnel when we were rookies, then about 4 hours of tunnel in single A to learn the specifics of all the blocks, and about 10 jumps just to get an exit that was coming out of the plane nicely. And that was enough for us to get about 10 or 11 average in single A, which is generally quite competitive. So that's the sort of level of commitment you're looking at to do fairly well in single A. A note on competitions, so UK Skydiving League, if you look out for these competitions this year, they are in Sibson, Langer and Sky High. They're fairly relaxed, casual competitions that 6 rounds over the weekend, and you can compete in any of these categories. Nationals is in August at Skydive Hibblestow, the last weekend of August. It's a great competition. It's really fun to compete and do the Nationals, and you can compete in whichever category. So you've got a good shot of winning if you're going to put a team together in rookie, single A or double A. Double A and triple A, you probably need a bit more training before you're going to have a chance of winning the medals. European Skydiving League, great international competition. It's a bit like the UKSLs. It's a fun, casual competition, and you can compete in any of the categories on an international stage rather than having to be the top level of AAA to compete internationally. And Ali will tell you all about that if you want to know any more about ESL. There's also indoor nationals, so I think you can still register for that now. It's in February at iFly Basingstoke. It's a really good competition and a chance to compete indoors without the pressures of getting out the plane and having to worry about the exits.
Right, so now you're ready to move on to AA. So what changes in AA? First is you go to 4 to 5 points per jump. So now we have more formations to remember on every jump. But the big thing about AA is blocks. You get a lot more new blocks. So you're going to be doing a lot of different moves you weren't doing before. Sideward, backward spins, 540 turns, compressed spins. So AA is really about learning how to fly blocks with your piece partner. So it's a very good category to spend a lot of time in the wind tunnel to be able to learn that block technique and get that repetition of those blocks. And that's why we have less points per jump. So you do more repetition of those blocks per each jump. But then we go on to AAA, into the big league. And this one, we have 5 to 6 points per jump. And we only have a handful of new blocks. But this is when we introduce what are called swappers. So if you're not familiar with block swappers, slot switches, swappers.
Swappers in Australia.
Yeah,
Australian
swappers is Australian
terminology.
for switches. So we do them the opposite way down below. Also, teams will start looking at doing more verticals, which may do in AA, as well as looking at whether or not they're going to do alternate randoms and alternate blocks. So this is why AAA becomes so much harder. So these slot swappers generally swap the front pair, so they are point and outside center, but some of them will swap everyone. So there's the 4 blocks that will swap the front pair, so that's why we usually pick the people in the inside center who have slow memory. And then you've got the 2 blocks that will swap everyone, and there's a couple of other blocks which are actually in the single A pool, which we do use as swappers sometimes. So it just depends on how you're engineering a jump. So as you're getting up to those higher levels, you start to engineer things to be more efficient each time. So now you need to know the dive pool in 2 different slots. So rather than 22 blocks and 16 randoms, you need to know 44 blocks and 32 randoms. So that's why it becomes a lot more difficult. We start getting a lot more training. But then we get into the verticals. So the verticals, if you haven't done them in before, it's where pieces are going to move over each other. So you're going to be flying over your other flyers. So Gary Bayer, who's a coach from Airspeed, used to talk about vertical fever, where all the teams everyone's like, we've got to do the vertical, we've got to do the vertical. And verticals aren't always better. So, I mean, this is block 18, and this is us doing the vertical well, and not so well. So when they don't work, then it does cost you a lot of time. And Matt said I could have found a worse video, but we didn't have one. So
Yeah, you can go tumbling out the sky on top of each other in blocks like that.
yeah. And then if you get really advanced, you get into what alternate randoms and alternate blocks. So if you aren't sort of satisfied with just learning 22 blocks and 16 randoms in 2 slots, now you can learn more in multiple slots. So this is going to mean more training, more brain work, but when the engineerings come up, it really saves teams a lot of time. This is around from the World Cup in 2019 in Eloy, where the options came up to use a different block 20, which is Piper Viper. So Airspeed took the other 20, and Rhythm took the standard 20 that we'd all typically use, and Airspeed got 9 points on them in this round. Throughout the rest of the competition, the 2 teams were kind of neck and neck, but in this single round, just by doing an alternate block, they were able to gain 9 points, which ultimately led to them winning the competition.
So just on alternate blocks, for anyone that's not done that at all before, you are allowed to mirror everything, so you can do it all in reverse. And it's up to you if you want to do it or not. But as Travis said, that would, again, double the amount of randoms and blocks you would need to know.
Yeah. And now just want to talk about just general four-way skills. So this is stuff you can work on regardless of whether you're in rookie, A, AA, AAA, and things that we all still continue to work on. So this is as you're progressing as a four-way flyer, what can you do to be a better team member throughout the period? I started with creepering because this is something that I see a lot of with teams at all levels, watching people on the creepers doing it so badly, and then they take that exact same moves into the sky. Like creepering is skydiving for free. It's the closest thing we can get to it, and the moves, when I see someone do a move, and they're like, oh, that's just a creeper thing, they do the exact same move back in the sky. You want to learn how to creeper properly, and it's not hard, it just takes a little bit of training. Simple things like when you're presenting a side body to your teammate, you lift up a leg. When you're presenting a cat or to your legs to someone, you lift up both legs and try not to kick them in the face. It certainly does happen. But having a general creepering plan, moving and stopping with your feet and hands, move into slot, stop, pick up grips, key, all fundamentals that we still have to remind ourselves of all the time. You know, the creepering plan, knowing when are you going to creeper, how much time you're going to spend on the creeper, are you going to look at the blocks? I mean, I remember when I first started learning, you know, we'd creeper every single block every time. Creep the interpicture, creep, because we were still learning that. And we didn't have a tunnel available in Australia, so that was the only way we could do it. Now we don't even creep the blocks. We just look at angles. We, get up to the levels where the blocks doesn't change, so you don't need to creep anymore. But when you're learning, it does help. Sort of the clear communication. Again, this happens a lot on creepers where people are like, are we going backwards? Are we going forwards? What are we doing? So just having a clear communication on the creepers, talking about what are we doing? How are we going to look at it? Some teams do the thing where they look at every angle 3 times. Some teams just get down and flow through it and then talk about it. Just have a plan with your team and make the creepering efficient and effective. So good creepering etiquette, again, be on time. Everyone's heard the announcements over the PA about row to the creeper pad. As I said, presenting your legs, try not to kick people in the face. And if someone says, hey, I want to see that again, you want to see it again. Like, everyone's going to have their moves on a certain skydive that are really tough for them. You might have a really good, simple, straight-up move, but there might be someone that's just not getting it for that jump. And it might be you the next time. So just let them see it again. And and last one, don't wear sunglasses, but not a big problem here in the UK. So grip plans and keys. So again, this is something that doesn't get a lot of focus in AA and single A, but certainly up in AAA as you start to go faster, we'll see someone picking up grips, and you'll just ask them, what's your grip plan? And they'll look at you with big wide eyes. And it's just a simple thing of going, what order are you taking grips? How are you taking the grip? Will the camera be able to see it, and things like that? Which way are you turning? But it's good skills you can start to think about when you're flying in rookie or A. Just think about, well, which grip am I going to do? And whatever happens in the skydive, however badly it's going, just try and stick to that grip plan. Just try and think, okay, I'm picking up right and then left, and just keep thinking about it, so that you'll build those skills in. They just become automatic as you learn. Keys. So again, the more junior level, you're going to talk more about keys. And as you progress, you're going to change the way you do key. So generally, inside center gets most of the keys because they're looking into the formation. But it's important to talk about who has the key, what are they looking at, where might someone bust the key, and as you do certain number of jumps, then where are the typical points where you do sort of jump keys. I know when I was flying inside center, I jumped the 20 key at the end almost every time because you think you can see everything. But just reminding people about those keys and where, who's going to give the key, what are they checking, and can everyone see it? Oh, and when there's a key between 2 people, like block 7, so the side body spin, this is a classic one between the 2 flakers. Can I use that word?
No.
Okay. Wings have to key, and they don't. The 2 they don't key that much together. And you often see people that they're both on their side bodies looking at each other going, yeah. Just know that communication about what point you look, and there's different key eyes you'll learn from as you fly with each other more. But when you look at each other, there's a certain look that says, yes, I'm ready to go, or no, I'm panicking, I'm fearing for my life, or whatever. So just learn. I want to talk about now training plans. So this is an important one in terms of, firstly, what is the team budget? because you can spend a lot of money on skydiving and still suck. You know, we've all been doing this for a long time and still trying to get better. You know, the top teams in the world, professional teams, are still improving their averages. We still haven't hit a peak. So, you know, you need to know for each team member how much financial commitment and time commitment you want to make into the sport. And there's no right or wrong answer. Yeah, but you need to agree on that, because you're always going to have people with different financial capabilities, different time capabilities on the team. I did an 8-way team in Australia where half the team were white-collar professional workers, half the team were tandem masters, and it was very hard team to organise because we had half the people wanted to jump weekends, had more funds available, half the people want to jump midweek, and it was quite a different dynamic. So establishing that is very important for your training plan. You know, how many days off work do people going to commit? You get certain amounts of days of leave per year. Again, how much do you really want to spend on the team? And it all just depends on how much is important to you. You know, when do you want to do your training? On the weekend or big camps? How much tunnel versus jumping? Stay local or go abroad? How much you want to do? You know, back-to-backs and coach selection. All things you want to discuss as a team, and your coaches can help you come up with these. You know, again, generally mix of tunnel and jumping. Here, it's great. We've generally got that indoor tunnel winter season. Outdoor jumping summer season gives a nice sort of structure to the general training plan. But of course, if you're an outdoor team, you don't want to do all your training in the tunnel. You need to get out there and jump out of the plane. And this is similar to the team goals. So that is really, I think, an important thing to establish with your team. Like, what is your goal? Are you going to win the nationals? Are you going to try and improve your team average? You try and just improve the skills, just have fun, just go out and get drunk every weekend. I mean, some teams do that. We were training in Imperial, and the Irish guys came in, and they just went and, had a blast, had a few drinks, did 2 skydives, and went home. But that was their team. That's what they want to do. There's no right and wrong thing, but it's important you all have the same goal, because otherwise you will get frustrated with each other and rip each other apart. How long is the commitment? 1 year plan, 2 year plan, one competition, 1 weekend, whatever it is, but just having that plan and communicating. And of course, life gets in the way, things change. We're all sort of amateurs generally. There's very few professional skydivers in the world, so life does get in the way, and some people are going to have to leave. But making sure everyone's in alignment with their goals, so we are all working to that common criteria. When I did a team years ago, where we had said at the start, like, we're just here to improve skills, we're not aiming to win nationals or anything. The team we were going up against went away and did some wind tunnel to the US, so it's back in Australia, and 2 of us were getting a bit competitive and going, well, we need to get some tunnel, we need to get some tunnel. And we had a team charter written out, and it was like, no, we're just here to have fun, improve skills. So we didn't go to the wind tunnel. We just, remind ourselves our goal was just to jump, and we won anyway, so. So now, world competitions. This is a really cool part about being in a sport like this that's sort of fairly small, as we get to go to world competitions. Now there are 2 key types, the world championships, which are a lot hard to get into because we only send 1 team from every country, and they're every 2 years. But then there's the World Cups. The good thing about a World Cup is they're, again, every 2 years, but the opposite year. We can send 4 teams from every country. The top teams often don't go because, again, if we're an amateur team, we've got limited funds, limited time. We have to choose what competitions we go into. So a lot of teams don't go to those World Cups, which creates a lot of opportunity for people to step up a level and go to a World Cup. It's great because you get to see some of the top skydivers in the sport, the high boosters, the air speeds, and so on. And it can really give you good motivation to step up into AAA. And that's actually where I stepped up into AAA. So my first 4-way World Cup, so I'd done 8-way at World Champs, but never 4-way before. I was asked to join a team. They'd won what we called intermediate in Australia, which is a single A dive pool. And they said, well, they'd never sent an A-class team to the World Cup before in Australia. And they said, well, we're not sending any team, so if you want to go, you can, but you need to learn AAA in 4 months. So we went from doing a 13.7 average in nationals with the A dive pool. We had 4 months to train. Obviously did a lot of training. So I joined the team because the player coach on the team wasn't the best motivational speaker, and we were training and not doing greatly. He was like, "You guys are terrible. What will the Australian Parachute Federation think? Going to be an embarrassment." We went and we did a 10.9 average. We came, I think, can't see the scoreboard there.
20 seconds.
20 seconds, so not last, but you know, we had a great time, and at the end of the day, who cares? You know, as long as you go there, you conduct yourself in a good way. You know, you're going to get support from each other. Everyone's going to see you there, having fun, getting better. So if you get offered a spot to go a World Cup and you don't think you're ready, take it, get as ready as you can, go have some fun and enjoy it. Now, changing team members, this is always going to come up because, like I said, people move on, we have different goals. This is what Joey Jones saying, I've heard it in various places, but of course you look for the holy trifecta of time, money and talent. Usually it's pick two. I'll let you know which two Matt has. One thing when we were approaching for a new member, one thing we did first was we developed our team plan. Like, what is our plan? What do we want to go to someone with? Because, when you get approached by people that go, hey, we want to do a team, you're like, okay, how many jumps are you planning to do? Oh, we'll figure that out. Okay, what's the commitment? Well, depends. It doesn't give them a lot to consider. It can be, if you're forming a net new team, that's fine. But when you are trying to find a new team member, it's important to go with them with a proposal. Figure out who you want to approach, who has, the right sort of skill level, the right personality fit is important because you're going to spend a lot of time with each other. You're going to be tired. You're going to be grumpy. You need to be able to get along. And also, as we have done, considering if you need to re-slot people. I mean, some people might know a slot. Some people might, be better positioned for a particular slot. So do you need to move people around? Of course, that's going to require more training. But also, for people in the room, if you're not on a team and you're wanting to get poached, I did try to call this talk Poaching a Puma, but I got outvoted. Then get on teams, like just scratch teams, do comps, because we're all there, we're watching. Even if you're not on a top team, you can tell people's skill level within a team. So if you are looking to get onto a high level team, get out there, compete, do the Sky Leagues or the UKSLs, thank you. And jump and compete as much as you can.
So, can everyone read that from the back? Probably not. I've got a slightly zoomed in version. The point of this slide is just to demonstrate that everyone progresses at different rates. So you can see that some of it, Travis is a bit weird because it's Australian, so he had his slightly different way of doing things. Rather than rookie, single A, double A, triple A, they've got an intermediate category, which you can probably explain a bit better.
Yeah, so when I started, the intermediate category was the AAA pool, but it had been modified. So block 14, the bipoles, you only did a 180 turn. Block 22, the cat piece didn't turn, things like that. It was really weird. Actually made it a lot quicker. I was watching the old video the other day, I'm like, man, there's some short moves. Block 20, only the tail spins. It's just, the tail just cranks around and finishes. So, but then we actually said, look, this is ridiculous. The coaches can't coach. We actually had Joey Jones come over in 2008, I think it was. And he was like, this is just stupid. Like, what are you doing? Nobody knows what these things are. So we changed. We had a competitors meeting. We voted for either the A or AA pool. We ended up going for the A pool as our new intermediate category, but 5 to 6 points, and that's when that changed in 2010. And then now they've adopted what the rest of the world do and have rookie through to AAA. But it's because that rookie through to AAA has been set up for that progression. Add a few more blocks, add a few more blocks, add a few more blocks.
Yeah. So we all did sort of different lengths of time in the categories as well. Generally, they say if you've won a medal, or definitely if you've won the category, you should be moving up. If you've won a medal, if it was maybe a bit of a quiet year with lower averages, maybe you could do that category again. But you don't want to just keep turning up in single A just so that you can win it every year, even though you're getting higher and higher averages. You want to move up through the categories. So you can see Helen got a 2.5 average in single A, so she did that category again the next year. And then got a 9.9. So earlier I said sort of 10 or 11 is usually competitive. So then the next year she's in double A. Whereas Roy did a couple of years in double A. I did rookie and single A in the same year, but that's because I did about 100 jumps that summer. So I was able to progress through both of those categories. And then once I got up to triple A, I then ended up kind of not improving my average very much. COVID got in the way a little bit. But everybody progresses at different speeds through the categories. But the main thing is you want to just keep working at it and keep progressing through those categories. Even if it takes a couple of years in each one, that's fine.
So, like I said, the point of that slide, everyone's journey is different. You know, we've all been in the sport for different periods of time, and you might be in the sport for 20 years and have done 2,000 jumps, been in the sport for 5 years and done 2,000 jumps and so on, or might focus on something crap like free fly or whatever. But everyone's journey is different up to AAA. The dive pool's been set up as a logical progression. So people talk about are these AA or AAA blocks? They're all AAA blocks. Like every single block is a AAA block. That's the point. So everything you learn is going to help you in the future. And again, all the top teams keep training, those side body spins, and they still can't spin in place. Don't get stuck on a level. Just move up. At the end of the day, like you don't want to be the prick winning A class with like a 27 average or something. And like I said, get on a team. You can't compete if you're not on a team.
So I think we were aiming to finish a little bit early to make sure everyone had time to buy a beer. So probably, buy more beers from the bar. We already gave you free beer. But we've probably got sort of 10, 15 minutes for any questions if anyone wants to ask anything.
Or Hicks can do a section on camera if anyone wants to hear about camera. Oh, we've got a judge.
It's not a judging question.
Oh.
Or even a question.
Sure.
She needs to use the mic. Oh. Okay.
Oh yeah, so we're going to pass the mic around as you ask questions, because otherwise the video won't pick up the question.
So for anyone that's never done a four-way team before, the UKSLs, there's often free coaching on hand from the top teams too. So even if you just want to have a go, just grab some friends and go along. And if you're lucky, teams like this will be lurking around to help you guys get started too.
If you're lucky, it might be Chimera. Yeah.
Even better.
Yeah.
Hi. How do you guys go about structuring your season for indoor versus outdoor?
So typically we first figure out our team budget. So we'll figure out how many hours of tunnel we want to do, how many jumps we want to do, and we want to do that. And then we focus on the indoor season, so starting generally, ideally in sort of December if we can. And then for indoor, particularly doing weekend training in the UK when the tunnel works. And then once we get into the summer, sort of around May, then we focus on our outdoor training, and we pretty much don't do any any indoor training once we start our outdoor for us. Historically, we've favoured long training camps rather than intermittent weekends, which was partly driven by having Joe Jones on the team who had a very erratic schedule, but that worked us. So generally going to Imperia, doing 12 jumps a day over a week, doing 90 jumps in a week of team training is sort of what worked for us.
When you talk about budget, is that individually what you can afford, or do you get sponsorship and team, things like that?
We should maybe cover sponsors in general.
Yeah, I mean a lot of sponsorship in skydiving is a license to spend money, really. A lot of the time you're getting 50% off to buy things, which is great. But unless you're in the top teams, until you start reselling gear, it's not a lot of money in it to help your budget. But there is absolutely, firstly, you need to figure out what can you spend on a team. Everyone's got different capabilities. What is your level of spending you want to do? And then as a team decision, you need to figure out, okay, what is the team goal and what is the budget? And it's one of those things like, okay, the goal might be to win nationals, so you might work backwards from that. So, okay, to win nationals, a coach, one of the top coaches will be able to go, well, you will need to do 500 jumps and 50 hours of tunnel to do that. And teams might go, well, that's fine. We will make that budget. Or you can back it in the other way and go, well, we have a budget of this much. How much training can we do with that budget? And then if you can go and seek sponsorships from, either Skydive sponsors or external sponsors for additional funds, then that's fantastic. But some teams have done it, but it is certainly very hard to do.
It's often time budgets as well. So you might have somebody that's got loads of money, but they work 3 weekends a month, and then every second weekend they want to see their family as well, or whatever it is, and just making sure that works for everybody in the team.
When preparing for a competition, how do you pick the sequence of formations you're going to do? Because to me it looks like letters.
Okay, that's my bad for not covering that in my slide. So in the competitions there is a dive pool, which has those formations that all had letters, and then the blocks all have numbers. And then there is a draw at the start of the competition where they randomly pull out the formations from the dive pool. So they'll come out the same formations but in different orders every time. And I think once you're at AAA, there's something like 4 million different permutations of orders that can come out in. So when we're training, we will train all the formations in just mixed up orders to try and cover as much as we can. But usually you'll have practiced the blocks and you'll have practiced the random formations, but just not in the order that they're likely to come out in unless you're really lucky. Each round, so rookie you get 3 formations per round, single A it's 4, or 3 or 4, double A is 4 or 5, triple A is 5 or 6. Yeah, and that's basically it. So they tell you which formations you're going to be doing for that round, and all the teams do the same, and you cycle through them as many times as you can in 35 seconds.
What would you say is a good ratio of tunnel time for jumps, and does it change much going from rookie to AAA?
That's a great question. I don't know. So in single A, we got away with about 10 jumps and doing most of it in the tunnel. But we were very much getting off the plane and just holding on to each other until we were off the hill, and then it just felt like being in the tunnel. You probably have some ideas.
Yeah, my favourite training camp was one I did with an 8-way where we did 3 days of tunnel, so 3 hours of tunnel over 3 days, a day break, and then 3 days of jumping. We kind of repeated it, and that worked really well in that respect. I mean, generally I find it's about probably 10 hours per probably 100, 150 jumps, I think, if you're at that sort of level. It depends on what you're trying to work on ultimately. I mean, tunnel is fantastic for learning blocks, absolutely, and learning, random sprints and things like that. But you can't learn exits in tunnel. So, teams that have done a lot of tunnel for whatever reason, their seasons are tunnel heavy. Sometimes they'll go and do 20 jumps from 6K to just bang out exits and just learn exits and exits and exits. Because again, the higher you get, the more important exits and hill work becomes. Because you're starting to score more points, the more on the hill it really becomes okay. But certainly on lower teams, I think tunnel is very efficient and a very good way to learn. And you can then just take out, like, the Australian women's team at the World Championships in the Gold Coast took out a H for every exit because they hadn't been able to do a lot of jumps together. They'd done mostly tunnel, and they still did I think a 16 average or something, taking out a H for every single exit at World Championship. So, if you're a tunnel team, then do that.
I think when up until AAA, I think we averaged 1 hour for every 10 jumps we wanted to do. So if we were doing 50 jumps for the year, we might aim to do 5 hours tunnel. And that was pretty good balance we found up till AAA. And then after that, your jump numbers I don't go and do 20 hours tunnel anymore. Maybe I wish I could, but when you're doing 200 jumps, that kind of ratio probably falls off. But up until AA, that was the kind of ratio we worked to.
That's similar to Pumas as well. I think we did about 10 hours for every 100 jumps. Other than when we did 4 or 5 hours in single and just 10 jumps. Get you next.
Yeah. Do you have many teams who do purely indoor skydiving and just that and nothing else?
Yeah, so Volition were a female team that did just indoors. There's ACM were indoors for a while. I think they're talking about some outdoors as well. It can be really good if you don't have as much time, because training camps abroad and lots of jumps can take up a lot of time. Whereas if you can just plan some tunnel, you can fit 10, 20 hours of tunnel into a calendar a lot more easily than you can fit in 200 jumps. Some people prefer it. The competitions are a bit faster as well, because you're in the tunnel, you don't have the rigs on, it's easier to move around, you can get higher averages, you don't have weather holds. So yeah, there are some teams that just compete in the tunnel. I think a lot of people start as skydivers and then fall into that. You get other people as well that maybe they've started a family, so it's not so easy for them to go skydiving anymore or can't skydive anymore for whatever reason. So yeah, there's definitely teams that just compete in the tunnel.
Okay, cool, thank you.
There's a couple back there.
How do you deal with differing personalities in a team, particularly in high-stress training camps or competitions?
It's a good
Try
one
to
for you, Travis.
belittle them as much as possible. No, it's. I mean, that's like you've really just got to get the right mix of personalities. Having a coach can help to diffuse kind of stress and things like that. I mean, you do. I think as a personal skill, I think you need to learn how to diffuse or walk away from situations. I find often on teams there's always kind of there's the people that kind of handle each other in terms of know how to diffuse certain people and things like that. I had a situation on an 8-way team once where we had to do the pass the rock. I don't know if you've done that thing before, where you all sit around a circle and whoever has the rock can say whatever, and basically it's the airing of grievances type thing, and to try and get all the bad blood out. But it is it can be a difficult point. But yeah, you just obviously need to just recognize it and maybe just take some time apart and then hopefully you come back and don't hate each other. But
also team building, so do non-skydiving stuff together as well.
Yeah, drinking.
Drinking, yeah. Get to know each other as people as well, so that you understand everything that Travis has just said. I can use Paul Wilcock as a good example for this. I'm sure he won't mind. He's a very good flyer. He's the most laid-back person ever. He'll go along with anything, but he'll turn up to training and he'll have forgotten his rigs. But you can put up with that because you know he's going to be nice and chilled, and you can just help sort stuff like that out. And you know what you're going to get with Paul. As long as you tell him where to be and what to bring, he'll be there and do a great job. And you just have to get used to who's in your team and what support that your team needs to make sure it's all working well.
Yeah, letting people know which hotels to book.
Yeah, Travis sent me to the wrong hotel for our last tunnel training. 2 Premier Inns in Basingstoke, if anyone's wondering. Question all the way back there.
What's your guys' opinion on some of the technical elements like long axes? Because I've had 2 coaches, and one is like obsessed with long axes and the other thinks it's boring.
Do you have an opinion on that, Helen?
So what do you mean by the long axes? You're talking...
You need to give her the mic back.
Yeah. What, so like short body, long body type stuff? Okay. So it's about where to place things relative to each areas. Yeah, I mean, every coach is going to have different ways to explain things. So, I mean, some coaches do talk about blocks. I think maybe that's what you're talking about building them much more kind of more as the picture is sort of displayed and kind of maintaining the integrity of the pieces. And other coaches teach ways around sort of being a lot more fluid in a block. Some coaches teach ways around, the block. Everyone flies their individual slot and doing a lot of non-contact drills. I mean, we've kind of done personally a bit of both. We're sort of learning with new coaches now who is a bit more about maintaining the integrity of the piece more. Historically, our style, particularly of blocks, had been to more probably fly harder and sort of twist the pieces a bit more, like things like 21s and stuff like that, if that answers the question.
And it changes as well. If you're competing in, say, 8-way, then the exact angle that you place a formation on can have quite a big impact, especially if the front are off by a few degrees, then the guys at the back of an 8-way are all the way around the other side, and it really can slow things down. So in terms of putting things on the right axis and the right angle is very important in 8-way.
Yeah, I think what Travis said at the beginning of that was probably the key bit, is that if you have a coach, they generally come with a philosophy and a style. And hopefully you've picked a coach that you want to work with, and you kind of have to buy in and just believe that the system they're trying to use is the one that will push you on. And you can talk to them and be like, I don't understand it if it's a method of teaching, but I would just, if they're your coach and that's what you're telling them, buy into it and just get on board with whatever it is they're saying, even if you're not sure, because hopefully they know a bit more about it than you do.
And there's also an element of finding a coach that works for you. So certain coaches explain things differently. So yeah, just sort of trying out different coach styles and personalities, and like I said, all the techniques. A lot of top coaches will be like, well, this team does it this way, and they will know which ones might work better for you. We can teach you different ways. But certainly, as a team member, I think there's an onus on you to be able to be coach. So like Roy said, go with the coach. It always pisses a coach off when you're giving advice and they're trying to talk back to you. But also, if a coach doesn't work for you, switch coaches. It's no hard feelings.
Often I find coaches tell you the same thing, just in different words. So it can be good to occasionally mix up the coach that you're using, and you realise what your original coach was trying to tell you all along, and you just hadn't quite got it straight in your head.
At what point do you think it's beneficial to fly indoors with rigs on?
For us, it was when we got to probably breaking above 16 average. I don't know if that's the point that you should start. That's the point we started. It's the point where we sort of realized we were moving so quick in the tunnel, it wasn't representative of what we would do in the air. And blocks were feeling too different by having the weight and the restriction and, you know, the distance and stuff, that it kind of, the blocks weren't moving into the air as well as they should. We'd do them in the tunnel, they'd be amazing, and we'd take them in the air and just, it wouldn't work. And we're like, okay, we need to do more tunnel with rigs on.
To leave you time to get a beer. Has anyone got any last questions you want to ask? One from Ali? ESL is 16th and 17th of September this year and is happening. Where is it?
Svartberg in Belgium.
It's in Belgium.
Svartberg.
Svartberg.
There you go.
There you go. In Belgium. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.